You're in for a real treat. He's spoken a lot of on LinkedIn, but today he's got a little bit different topic, which I thought was really cool. I love the title. Containing the perilous journey of your resume. He is a senior recruiting professional with Austin HR. He's worked with both small and large corporation teams. He's been a frequent speaker here and around Central Texas, and I think even nationally at different times. And so I would like to bring up and introduce Gary O'Neill for Taming the Perilous Journey of Your Resume.
Hello, everyone. Happy Friday to you. Just to add a little bit more, so thank you so much, Shannon, for the introduction and for putting this all on. How about a hand for Shannon? Is this thing on?
Yeah.
So a little bit more about my background, just so you kind of know the perspective that I come from. I'm really not a recruiter. I just happen to do that as my day job. I started my career as a software engineer way back in the day. I joined a startup company in 1993. We grew it from startup to 1,800 people, 17 offices nationwide, and sold it to Sprint. And I helped orchestrate how we went about hiring, which was very different than I've actually ever seen another company do it. After that point in time, I started a company, Cool Hires. We outsourced and managed recruiting departments for companies. So I've been tilting at windmills to help organizations hire better than they currently do. Kind of for a long time. I've hired 300 or 400 people myself. I've trained thousands of hiring managers, probably 400 or 500 recruiters, some of whom I hope do a better job than a lot of recruiters are out there. And I've been inside of probably 250 different companies and have some idea of how they hire. So that's kind of the perspective that I come from. I'm kind of more like a business guy, if you will, an entrepreneur in a recruiter suit sometimes. The perilous journey of your resume. My mission always is to take you behind the scenes and let you know how this stuff really works, or really kind of doesn't work. Recruiting and hiring is getting more and more broken. And I'll share with you some of the reasons why I think that is. And the other thing, my notion always is that if you understand how the game is played, it's a whole lot easier to win. I'm not here to make you comfortable. I'm not here to tell you things to make you feel better. I might be here to scare you a little bit, but at the end of the day, the message I really want you to take away is if you take some of the stuff I'm telling you to heart, right, I really think it's going to help. And not only that, I think that when I show you what's going on, there may be a few surprises for you. Yeah, let's just see. Oh, by the way, there's my contact information. Find me on LinkedIn, linkedin.com/n/Gary O'Neill TX. It's pretty easy to find. I am actually in the process of putting together an online program. I'm probably going to do some webinars and stuff. It's all going to be for free. Part of my mission is to help as many great hires happen as I possibly can. So if you would like to sign up for, I'm going to start sending some messages out about it soon. I don't have a registration online. If you would like to be part of that, you can either text me at that mobile number that's right there, or email me at gary@austinhr.com. Tell me you'd like to be part of the upcoming programs that I've got. And again, it's going to be free stuff, right? I'm just trying to do what I can to help out. So, in fact, a lot of the stuff I'm going to talk to you about today will not only be on the stuff that I'm going to be doing, it'll probably launch in a few weeks, but a lot more detail, because I can dive into some more detail online. So you can hold me, and this will be back up at the end of the thing. So last time I was here, maybe not last time, but one of the times I was here not that long ago, I was sharing with you that I thought that like applying for jobs was like a black hole. You know what? There's little dots that are coming in there, but that's supposed to be a black hole that you can see and stuff that's going in. I changed my mind. It's really more like this. And I know labyrinths are those really nice, pretty things that have one entrance and you get to the middle and one way out. You don't really get lost in a real labyrinth, but the movie didn't understand that either. So this is a maze, more like. Applying for a job, right? You apply for a job, you send your resume out on a mission of hope. And really what's happening is it's going into, it's a really pretty perilous journey with some people along the way who aren't necessarily operating in your best interest, all kinds of trap doors and all kinds of stuff. So I think it's more like a labyrinth. So last night, actually, when I was sitting down to kind of finalize what I was going to talk about, it'd been a while since I've been online and actually played Job Seeker and gone and applied for jobs. It's a mess, by the way, isn't it? Right? If you ever apply jobs, you don't hear anything back. They ask all kinds of questions, right? So I was really kind of shocked to put this together. It's like, and I think there's a pattern here, right? So I just copied some buttons. There's apply for a job, right? Okay, not too bad. Sign in and apply. I'm not sure why I have to create accounts in places and have a password, and why does my password have to be secure? I mean, really, somebody cares to get into my account and hack where I apply for a job? I don't get it. Right? I really don't. Apply now. We're getting a little bit more aggressive. Right? Submit application. I see a pattern here. Submit. And this is my favorite. Submit now. Are you kidding me? Really? And all I can tell you is there's a little bit more truth to this kind of attitude than you might necessarily believe. By the way, I probably would never apply for a job if I was looking for one. I'd probably never do it. And I'll tell you what I would do instead. Let me take that back. I probably wouldn't. I'm not necessarily suggesting that you don't, but don't ever just apply for a job, because it's kind of a black hole. It's kind of this maze, and let me share with you why. By the way, these are just a couple of other things I found along the way, and maybe this isn't teaching you anything, it's just commiserating with you, right? I'm going and I'm applying on, like, I think it was progressive.com, right? They had, I think it was, and I'm trying to do a password. My password isn't valid. It has to be this stuff. It must contain at least one letters, by the way. One letters? Are you kidding me? Okay, fine. It must contain at least one numeric characters, right? And I'm kind of going, really, why do you care what my password is when I'm applying for a job? Do you really run into this stuff? It's kind of ridiculous, isn't it? There's a lot of stuff about it that's ridiculous. And again, I'm not telling you anything you don't know. I'm just commiserating with you. I get it.
So that you
ridiculous.
never unsubscribe from their lips.
It is crazy. Well, and if you do what I did when I was doing this, I just made up some stupid password, and I went back in this morning, I wanted to do it. I didn't remember what my password was. I had to forget my password. And it was just like, you know what? This is just stupid, right? It's just stupid. This is another one of my favorites. And then again, I'll get to what I really want to talk to you about in a minute. I was just shocked last night when I went through it. This is one of my least favorite things, by the way. Please indicate your total compensation, right? And there's these boxes and these drop downs that you got. The honest truth is what your current compensation is has nothing to do with really what it is you want to be paid. It's really unfortunate that people look at it that way. It's really, really old school way of looking at things. My best suggestion to you on this one, and I can show you some other time, and this is the stuff I'll show you online. But my best suggestion is if I was picking one of these, what I would really do is I would go to salary.com, I'd go to payscale.com, I would go to Indeed where the salary stuff is. I'd look up best I can the job that I'm applying for. I would pick whatever they say the range is, and I'd pick whichever one fits the range because they're likely screening you out if you're not in the right range for that particular job. As a recruiter, here's what I can tell you. Rarely do the people that I present to a client get hired for whatever they said that their target range was. Rarely. I influence heavily. And what happens a whole lot is that, everybody starts out with the idea is that I want everything. I want a Mercedes-Benz and I want to pay $60,000 for it. So where companies start and where they end up sometimes are not necessarily the same place. So it doesn't necessarily mean you're pigeonholing yourself. It means this is the way to get through the labyrinth, which is to pick the right thing, which is the one that's likely going to fit with the job or in the range. And you can go find out what it is on salary.com, payscale.com. There's a lot of places to go do that. And again, maybe just commiserating with you. This is not cool, right? Really not cool. All right, here's another one of my favorites that I saw last night, and this is part of the Perolous journey. This is applying online. Which one was this? Customer service inbound sales representatives. I'll call out Progressive again. My favorite part of this is there a pointer here? Step 5 out of 9. Are you kidding me? Really? Right? Are you kidding me? How much time does it take and all the stuff that they're asking me? It makes me crazy as a recruiter. And I love this one. If hired, are you legally authorized to work in the United States? Well, I guess if I was hired, I would be. Right? Something along the line. I don't know. Maybe I'm just snarky. All right. Let's talk about this. I'm going to shift to what I really want to talk to you about. When you apply for a job online, who receives your resume? Okay, or ATS. It often goes into ATS. Not often, not always, but at some point, it gets to some human being, right? So let's assume we got it through whatever it is, some human being. What human being? Who is receiving your resume?
Internal recruiter.
There's an admin, there's an internal recruiter, there's who? HR of some sort. Who else? Right? Anything but the manager, right? So all of the above is true. So it's really common that it turns out to be somebody who's probably an administrative assistant of some sort. They often don't necessarily understand the role. They often are doing things such as looking for a scrum master, but if you said you're a senior software development manager, they wouldn't recognize it the same thing. If you're looking for a senior accountant and you said controller, they're not going to recognize it as the same thing, right? So keep in mind that the people who are sometimes on the receiving end of your resume at the beginning of the process, at the top of the funnel, through no fault of their own, often aren't really all that able to understand what it is that you do, what you're doing, and understand how to move you forward. So keep in mind who is receiving your resume. I'm going to help you figure out how to deal with this too. We're going to talk about the problem first, and I'll talk about how to deal with it. How do they receive it?
Electronically.
Electronic, but how? Tell me more, deeper.
Yes.
What's that?
Applicant tracking system.
Sometimes it shows up in the applicant tracking system, right? An applicant tracking system, I'll show you some on the inside of how ours works, right? So resumes in lots of companies end up in applicant tracking system is where they end up, right? And do you have any idea when they're looking at an applicant tracking system what it is that they're looking at or what it looks like inside of the applicant tracking system or how they actually see it?
Yeah.
Yeah, tell me more.
Yeah, well, a lot of applicant tracking systems have the keyword match,
Mhm.
so they don't even actually, someone actually won't even see your resume unless a certain percentage that they've set of keywords match.
Yeah, right? And I'll show you in a minute. And when you're looking at it, it's a text version of your resume. It's not the pretty version of your resume. By the way, even when I have your actual resume, if I'm looking at the Word document, I don't want your fancy, pretty resume. Recruiter after recruiter after recruiter after hiring manager will tell you we want it nice and clean and straightforward. All the stuff you do to make it pretty and fancy works against you, by the way, right? Probably not so much. And all those tables and columns and stuff that you do to like lay it out some way when it converts to text makes a mess of your resume. It really has to work as text. So how they receive it is sometimes through the applicant tracking system. Sometimes they receive it through email. Sometimes they receive it from an email forwarded from someone else, right? And what do most people's email look like at work? What does people's email box look like at work? Is it nice and pretty and clean and neat and everything? Do things get lost in their email? Yeah. And even when it comes to an ATS, usually you get an email message. So here's what I'm telling you right now, is that when you apply for a job online, you never know how long the line is. It's going to somebody who is likely not really able to evaluate whether or not they ought to move you forward. It is sometimes, so I'm just saying, if you make these assumptions, right, these are safe assumptions to make, and I'll show you how to overcome these assumptions. Because, as an example, if your resume actually does come to somebody who knows how to do it, this won't be a problem. I'm just telling you it happens enough that it is a problem that you're up against, right? So after they receive your resume through ATS or through an email or getting forwarded from an email, what happens next? What happens next? That first person now is somehow got your resume. What happens? What do you think happens to your resume now?
So are you asking if they've decided to look at it now at this point?
Yeah, it arrived at somebody, and we can assume that a lot of them are never going to get looked at for lots of different reasons. But let's say that they're going to look at it. Now what happens? What happens next? Maybe print it out. I'm not sure that does you any good, by the way.
Just a 15-second glance.
Maybe 15 seconds, yeah. 6, 8, 10 seconds. What else?
As a hiring manager in the past, I might open the resume, but typically I go straight to LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Just
Oh,
my
true.
phone.
Yeah, as soon as you get the resume, I want that link at the top because I'm going to go to your LinkedIn profile, no question. Our applicant tracking system, basically when you put a resume in, you click the button, even if they didn't give us their LinkedIn thing, I'll go straight to your LinkedIn profile, no question about that. Yeah, what else?
Probably the hiring manager.
Could be. I'm just looking for all the different options. So my point here is that I'm going to try to tell you really kind of what's happening right behind the scenes because I think a lot of you don't necessarily know. So there's so many possibilities of what happens next. One thing that happens is they get busy and your email gets lost in their email. Another thing that happens is they forward it to somebody who pays no attention to it. Another thing that happens is they press the decline button. Another thing that happens is they press the nominate button, right? There's so many different variations that happen along the way. And what I'm going to try to do is to share with you a little bit more detail about what happens. And I'm going to give you some techniques that are going to shift the odds in your favor. Because the good news is it's such a mess that if you only know a couple of things, you can make a whole lot of difference. And let's call it resume hacking or job search hacking. Or you heard of SEO? You know what SEO is? Search engine optimization. Search engine optimization for your resume. Here's what I'm here to tell you. The good news for you is all of this stuff is such a mess that it's really easy to get outside of the mess. It's really easy to do. So the first thing I want to show you is this is our applicant tracking system. And I'm sorry, what's your name?
Nikki.
Nikki. So like Nikki was saying before, one of the things that most of these applicant tracking systems do is they slice and dice your resume by keyword. I can't turn that feature off. We don't use it because I'm not a believer in it at all. It makes a mess of things. But here's how it works. When your resume goes into the system at some point, then what it's going to do is it's going to pull out key phrases in your resume that thinks are key phrases. It also did the same thing when we put the job description in, and it does matching of words in your resume and matching of words against the job description to see whether, so you got 3-star ratings and 3 stars and 2 stars and 1 stars and on down, right, in terms of that keyword match. What's your intuitive notion about whether or not the people who are 1 stars and the people who are 4 stars and things like that are necessarily going to be the better hire? What's your thought around that? What do you think?
How is it creating or ranking those stars?
It's ranking those stars by almost every single one of them is, it looks at the words in the job description and it looks at the words in your resume and sees how many of them match.
Oh.
So if the job description says quality assurance 5 times and yours says quality assurance none, that was probably a low match. If yours says QA and the job description said quality assurance, it's not going to know those things. So it's flat out counting keywords generally. They're getting a little bit smarter, but not much. What's your notion that how many of you think that your resume is a great reflection of who you are and what you do and how you behave?
Yeah.
It's really hard to begin with. How many of you think that a job description is a good representation of the role? So let's start out with, your resume is a poor representation of you, the job description is irrelevant, and now what we're going to do is keyword matching. How many of you think that the 5 stars and the 4 stars are likely to be better in the role than the 1 stars and the 2 stars? Does anybody?
There's no guarantee.
No. The only reason why this exists is several things that go on. One is, have you ever heard of Taylorism, right? Essentialism, right? It's a psychological term, psychology term, trait theory. Any of y'all heard that? There's a book, it's my new favorite book. It's called The End of Average. If you're interested in those kinds of things, The End of Average will tell you part of what's wrong with everything that's going on. It's like the red pill and the blue pill, right? I wrote the author, his name is Todd Rose. He's a great guy out of MIT. We're talking about stuff now. And it was eye-opening for me. Taylorism and essentialism is this notion that we have traits that can be measured as an individual outside of a particular context. We believe that your background and your experience and your skills is material to your ability to be a high performer. I don't believe that it is. So when you look at the Taylorist and the rest, there's this notion that I can do these keyword matches and I can measure you as an individual and I can decide whether or not you are going to be successful or not. How many of you believe that that's true? Right?
Yes, I can.
How many, right, it is the SAT score, right? And how many companies rank people by one-dimensional kinds of thinking? And what I know is that in HR classes and things like that, we've been taught over and over and over to have these tailors used. Read the book. It'll be really eye-opening for you. I'm not sure what you will necessarily do about it, but I'm trying to do something about it. So here's the deal. This is what happens, right? The reality of it is that happens in most systems. So let me show you something, right? Here's one. So let me just show you a real live example. This is a real live, recent, just happened yesterday. This person applied for this job on our site. I don't post most of our jobs because I'm not a big fan of posting jobs, but this happened yesterday. So I've got a director of sales position open for a company called Falcon Structures. They take used shipping containers and turn them into all kinds of other things. So if you're a director of salesperson and super process oriented, I need to talk to you. But besides that, here, take this person's resume. I blocked out all these were names. I blocked them out to protect the innocent because these are people who might be in this room. They're here in town, like right now. This is real. And so this is a director of sales role. This person happened to be this 1-star person that's down here, right? Now imagine that you're an administrative assistant. And imagine that, like in my company, in this particular case, there's 275 people who have applied for this job. And imagine that what your job is to help your boss, me. I asked you to go through these 275 today. You're going through 500 today. And I really need you to cut this set down to about 25. Right? 1 in 10. Right? 1 in 10. It's a director of sales job for containers, process orientation and stuff. So check this out. So check out what this says. So, oh, by the way, remember when I told you oftentimes when your resume comes into one of these systems, we don't actually see your pretty version of your resume, we see the text version of your resume. The reason why is because it's faster, because I can go through these by clicking these little buttons and they'll take me to the next one. I can't wait that long to pull up your Word version of your resume. So we're going through the text version of your resume. So this is the top part and the top, top third, maybe top 25% of this person's resume. And the truth is, it's that little thing over there, and you can't see it over here, but it's a whole, so check this out. Award-winning, highly accomplished marketing and sales professional, Austin, Texas. Built the marketing department from the ground up, increased web traffic 1,000% over 12 months, increased subscriber database 300% in 6 months. Designed and built, I should probably block that out, so I'll go to the next page. But this is the same thing here. Award-winning, right? I did block it out here. Designed and built website from the ground up. Certified marketing coach and trainer for. This is a director of sales role. It's all about sales process. So as this person who's doing this first pass on these things, and I need you to cut it down to about a pile of 25 for me, I want to draw your attention right here. See what it says in that box? You're going to nominate to move forward to the next thing, or you're going to decline. You're going to nominate, or you're going to decline. What are you going to do right now? It's your call.
Gary, did you say she was $1?
Yeah, that was a 1-star rating. This is a director of sales role. Does that look like a sales professional? I'm increasing web traffic. I've rebuilt the website. I'm a marketing coach. Right? What are you going to do? It's your job. Like right now, which button do you press? What?
Is it early or late in the list? Early, yes. Late, probably not.
You never know, right? It depends upon how easy. You're absolutely true. And it depends upon what time of day it is, quite frankly. Is it 4 o'clock on Friday and a hurricane's coming and my eyes are bleeding from looking at 500 resumes today, and I'm not going to put up with another person who's applied online with a resume that isn't a fit because I'm tired of seeing them? So many truck drivers applied to this director of sales job? I mean, whoa, right? Depends on lots of different things. But in general, I think we all agree what's going to happen is that's going to get crossed. That person doesn't look like a good person, for this particular role. Here's the truth. This person has a marketing resume because they spent about the last year and a half doing that. That was probably the last job they applied for. If you move down the fold, they've been director of sales for a lot. They're actually a really great candidate for this particular role. I'm actually talking to them right now. And so, except for the fact that I bothered to go in and really look last night, right, this person would have been declined out of the system. Shocking, isn't it? I hate it. And here's the other thing that I hate about it, right? And again, maybe this is just commiserating with you, and I'm telling you this stuff because I'm going to show you a little bit what to do about this. The good news is this is going on, right? And the good news is that you're here because this is happening to everybody else, and this isn't going to happen to you anymore. And I want to tell you how to not have this happen to you. Here's the unfortunate truth in this, is that in most organizations, it's some of the lesser paid people who are in the recruiting team who are doing this early stage screening. On average, fully burdened, they're probably making $45 an hour. You know what fully burdened is, right? After taxes that the company pays and the overhead of their office and all those kinds of things, 45 to $50 an hour. That means the person's making about $45,000 a year. So about at $50 an hour, and at a minute per resume, if you actually looked at them for a minute, which is long enough to actually scroll down and look at it, I can do about 50 of them an hour. That's about $1 a piece. So by using the star ranking system, instead of spending $250 looking through everybody, through the star ranking system, I'm going to have them look at 25, and I essentially saved about $200 at the early stage of things with a person who really doesn't have the ability to discriminate. It's crazy. It's crazy, but that's the way that it goes down, right? And I'm trying to change it. I really am. I'm not here to try to make you feel better. I'm trying to tell you how this game is played. So, at this point in time, I think we all agree that most of you are pressed decline, unless it's late in the day and you haven't found the 25 that you needed or whatever it is, and you're just picking a couple, and maybe you happen to know the person, you know their cousin, right? Quick thing on knowing their cousin, right? The other thing that goes on, working with a client right now, that somebody who's referred in by a senior manager, clearly on paper and everything else, this person is not qualified for this role. But as the outsourced recruiting department, we're treating that referral with kid gloves, and we're bringing her all the way through the process, although I know she's not going to get hired. It's my job to make sure she does by presenting as somebody who's really a good fit. So my point there is that people getting into an organization counts a lot. Referrals get taken care of in ways that people applying online don't. All right, so now that you hit decline, have you ever sent your resume anywhere and never heard back from anybody? How many of you have sent your resume somewhere and never heard back? Yeah, right? All right, so my question for you is, you just press the decline button. You're the person who did that. You did it right now. You just declined that person. Bummer. And you're another person who is, you've got a choice to either get back to this person and reply to them or not. Or let it go in the black hole. So you're going to get back to him, let's say. Let's assume that you're going to. What message are you going to send this person that you just declined? Really, what message are you going to send them? This is your job. What are you going to say to them?
Thank you, but you weren't a fit.
right? So let me ask you this question. Now that you did that a bunch of times, and I'll just, since you spoke out, Julie, do you think does that make you feel better on the other end when you get declined for something where you clearly know that you were probably a good fit for it and it doesn't make any sense? Does it make you feel better? Yeah, right? It doesn't really, right? It doesn't really. And what we find out is that when we do that, we get objections back, and it takes a whole lot of time to do it. And, you know, if it were me, the one that I really like to do is, what we really ought to do, and we try to, we aren't always great at it, is to actually look at your resume and say, hey, Julie, I see that you were doing these kinds of things. You know, it's not clear that this job is a good fit for you because keys to the kingdom and success are this, this, and this. Perhaps we missed something, let us know. But usually you get the nuke letter, which is, hey, thanks, but no thanks, right? Probably not a great message to send. When you send the thanks, but no thanks message, what I'm telling you is the response back that you get means it's going to take even more time because now I've got people wanting to argue with me, right? I had 275 people to begin with. We're narrowing it down to a set of 25. Out of the 250 people, 100 of them are going to want to message back and argue with me. So what am I going to do? Shut them off now? All of a sudden, by responding, we just invited a dialogue that we can't afford, right? You get it? We invited a dialogue that we can't afford. If I got 20 jobs open, I've got 3,000 people that I'm doing that with. If I narrow it down to 300, I just sent messages to, 2,700 people. Half of those people want to have an email dialogue with me to object about why they were rejecting me. Can't afford to do that. What if my recruiting budget is $500,000 a year? What if that's 2,700 people a month? What if it took me 2 minutes a piece to do that kind of stuff? You do the math. That's 57 minutes. It ends up costing me about 15% of my budget to respond to people and try to have this dialogue. I can't afford to do it, right? That's how much that costs, right? What do you get for your money? Right? What do you get for your money if you're me? Right? You're managing your budget. What do you get for your money? The only thing that I think that you get, and we try to do it a lot, is the satisfaction that I'm not creating disappointment and I'm not creating stuff like that because I think people really matter. And we go ahead and spend the money on it best that I can, but in general, from a pure business perspective, you get nothing but goodwill if you get that at all. And so I'll just pontificate for just a second. So what we've done is we've created this ugly monster, which is people apply for jobs online, you never hear anything back, so therefore you apply for stuff at random, which means the piles get bigger, which means more people apply, which means it costs me even more to respond. You know, I mean, it just becomes this crazy, crazy mess. And again, I promise I'm going to show you what to do about it. All right, I just want to give you a couple of other examples and then we'll move on to some stuff. So here's a great example of one of the things that happens when you apply online, and this is applying online in Indeed. So on the receiving end on Indeed, unless you're going to buy the expensive account, I don't have one of those, then what we get is an email message. This came in an email, right? There's a cover letter, and there's, are you interested in this candidate? Yes, maybe, reject, I would talk to them. I don't know why that's up there at the top of this thing. I hadn't even seen them yet. How can I do that at the top of this email message? It doesn't make any sense to me. By the way, what I do with this, and by the way, at the bottom of this, once you scroll down further, is an email attachment with their resume, right? And this was the one, this is the bottom, that's the top of the email message that I got in my email. This is the bottom of it where the attachment is. This is Gmail, shows you what an attachment looks like in Gmail, right? And do you know what I did with it? I forwarded it to Mo, who's a recruiter on my team. This is real. I'm not making this stuff up. This is not an example. This is not a make-up example. This is a real example. This was back in May, I think it was. So I forwarded it over to Mo, is what I do. And the reason why is because this is a position I'm not actually working on. And by the way, a lot of times in a lot of organizations, the person who has the Indeed account, right? Because we got Taylor's people who are taking control over these accounts. And Indeed, I can say who's going to get emailed. So often the person who actually holds the Indeed account, the login, isn't the person who's actually receiving the email. So in this case, it's my account, but I forwarded it over to Mo. Mo can't go back into the account and click yes, no, maybe, or see, no, that she can, because I give her my access. But in a lot of organizations, they can't. So Mo is a junior recruiter. She's awesome, by the way. I would work with her any day. She does know a lot about what she's doing. But I checked last night and I followed up. She was really busy. She actually didn't enter this into our applicant tracking system. I don't know exactly what happened to it, but as far as I can tell, nothing happened with this person, right? Nothing happened. I'm showing you right here in front of you. People on my team, and I try really hard to do this well, nothing happened. Let me share this with you too. And again, I promise you, I'm going to tell you what to do about this stuff. The other thing that's interesting about this particular one is I sanitized it. I took that resume because I didn't find it in the system last night, so I input it into our system. I did this last night. And so the job was a QA test position, application QA test, right? Application QA test. And what's interesting about it is I sanitized it, right? A university in Texas, right? As you can I took out all the stuff to protect the innocent. But responsible for QA. So here's my question for you. We're going to look at this real quick, and you tell me whether this might be a good person to talk to, possibly somebody who might be great in this role. What this role is a medical company that does software for hospitals and clinics that nurses actually use, that end of the equation. Really sophisticated, complicated stuff in terms of tracking medications and procedures. It's the stuff you see nurses spending 70% of their time in the hallway on the computer instead of taking care of patients because they have to do this stuff. They're one of the companies that does that. And so it's on mobile, it's on tablets and the rest. And what they needed is somebody who's really process oriented, really understands QA, doesn't necessarily know anything about medicine, but as they come up with these versions, is going to have to, like a robot, go through every single click button, every single thing, based upon this outline that they have, and give feedback to the developers where they've got problems, right? That's what this job is essentially about. So let's take a look at this person. So they got a bachelor's degree, and it's an entry-level job, by the way. This is an entry-level job. This is a real deal. This is for real. They got a bachelor's degree in 2015. Okay, pretty entry-level, right? In software technology management at a university in Texas. It's a good university in Texas, quite honestly. June 15th through present, they've been in QA tests for Acme International. It's not really the company, but the rest of this is real. Responsible for QA and testing according to strict guidelines and process, detailed documentation and inspection filings with state and federal regulatory involvements, including OSHA. Right? These guys have to do HIPAA kinds of things for medical kinds of things. And you go in and read it, pretty process-oriented guy and the rest, right? This just happens to do with welding and stuff like that. Do you think that as an entry-level person with a degree in software technology and having to do QA and tests on these kinds of devices, whatever they are, that are OSHA requirements, that this person might be a really good person to be on this testing team for application development? No? Why not? I'd pick him every single day. I would pick this person every day. Why not? I'm just curious. Not trying to judge anything. I'd pick him every day. Why wouldn't you pick him? I don't want to put you on the spot.
Yeah.
I don't mean to.
I mean, my instinct until you just made me feel bad was.
I'm not here to make you feel good.
Well, you did. I was about to get up and walk out. Developed engineering, piping, design, drawings, checked sheet metal bins and welds. So my initial thinking was no, because I saw OSHA, occupational safety hazard, whatever that is.
Yeah.
And so, but then you said it was entry level, and then I sort of started shifting, but it's not software.
So see how part of my point here is, and I'm not trying to call anybody out. See how hard this is. You want to see what I see? Here's what I see. And the unfortunate part is most of the people who are doing the early stage resume. Yes, sir.
If you can deal with OSHA, you can deal with HIPAA.
No question.
They're just, the level of bureaucracy involved in both of those is incredible.
All right, now you're piling on. Now you're piling on.
Yeah. And this exercise, by the way, it wasn't about trying to judge any one of us. Yes, sir?
You made a decision based on something that's not there. Oh, it took this guy with no experience did this in a year. I mean, that's what's read out of it.
Yeah, I'll show you what I'm reading out of it, right? And my point really is, if you go back to who's receiving the resume and how they're receiving it, it's probably a person that doesn't have the ability to do what I'm about to do, which is they have a bachelor's degree in software technology management. This is a software company, really? Really, the one we're hiring for? It's a software company, a really sophisticated software company. They do medical software of a really sophisticated kind. Bachelor's degree in software technology management. Is that software technology management is not about programming. It's really about, and it probably has a little bit of that, but it's about the overall management of software lifecycle process, right? So kind of going, all right, this dude's been around software. Responsible for QA testing according to strict guidelines and process, detailed documentation, inspection filing, state regulatory agencies with OSHA. I'm sold already, right? I'm ready to roll, right? This smart, wickedly smart, probably person who's motivated, who's done QA kinds of things, who knows how to follow a test script, knows how to do documentation for OSHA. I promise you, I think that this person would be awesome, right? A lot of people wouldn't probably see that. Here's what really doesn't see that, is my applicant tracking system.
I was just going to say,
you as a human being are seeing transferable skills.
Mhm.
Whether the computer can or not, maybe AI is or is not at that level or not, but other humans aren't gonna see the same degree of transferable skills.
Right, they're not.
So it's a crapshoot.
It is a crapshoot. I'm going to show you what to do about it. And I think before AI could do it, we're a long way away from there, because this is a really complex, abstract concept that we're talking about. And most of them are dealing with word patterns, is what we're doing. We're going to aim word pattern machines at this, which you already have, and we'll aim better word pattern machines at it, and they're not going to help. All we're doing is continuing to dehumanize the process. So those of you who are in HR, please stop doing this. It's really bad. It's a really bad idea. So check this out. Here's what we see. So when I upload, this is last night, when I uploaded this resume into our system star ranks it, and we don't use that, I promise, but I can't zoom in. What you would see is that the things that it actually called out is he got 5 stars for responsible for QA and testing, right? And then he got 5 stars for conducted analysis, assembly lines, sheet metal, which was in there one time, regularly performing AutoCAD, right, Six Sigma and all that kind of stuff. And the truth is, if you look at the word pattern on the job description, he matched none. None. 0. It would have been a 1 star, because when it matches none, it maximum 1 star, I don't know. So here's what we did. So here's my first tip for what to do about this problem, right? So here's what I was trying to do up to this point is, you've probably heard about the fact that some of these applicant tracking systems slice and dice you by keyword. You've probably heard that your resume goes into a black hole. You've probably heard this, you already know this stuff. I'm trying to tell you really what goes on behind the scenes. To tell you it's not just rumor or myth, it's real, right? This stuff is real. Here's the first thing to do about it when you're applying for a job online. Everybody tells you tailor your resume for the application, right? You've heard that before? Let me tell you exactly what that means, right? It isn't abstract. It's really, really, really clear to me. I'm a software engineer by nature, by the way, so I think like an engineer. And what we're going to do is we're going to hack these stupid systems. The systems are ridiculous. All I know is this is a great candidate. He did get interviewed. He didn't get hired, but he's an awesome candidate. And our system star ranked him as a 1. Right? So if you're in HR, don't use the system. You may as well look at it. If you're only going to look at 25, look at them in a random. You'd be better off. So here's what I did. I took the resume, and where he had QA test, I changed it to quality assurance and testing, because those 2 words were in our job description a lot, which, by the way, was posted online, so it would have been super easy for somebody to do. Quality assurance and testing, I put it in a couple of other places. Solid Edge was in there. Quality assurance, testing, application testing, software testing, test compliance, which are all words out of the job description, right? And then all the way down at the bottom of the resume, because by the way, nobody gets to the bottom of your resume. They decide whether you're in and out before you ever get to the bottom. So nobody's going to see this block at the bottom that says quality assurance testing, application testing, software testing, test compliance, quality assurance testing, application testing, software testing, test compliance, quality assurance testing, application testing, software testing, test compliance. Right? And bang, look at that. He got 5 stars on all of the major keywords that matched the job description, and by doing that, just turned into a 5 star at the very top of the list. Right? Well, I don't want that block of keywords at the bottom of the resume. Like 1, nobody's ever looking at it. 2, you can have a beautiful resume at the bottom of the pile with 1 star, or you can actually get somebody to bother to look at it by hacking your resume. Right? Here's how to do this. Right? I don't have time to show you this is stuff. If you get on my list, I'll show you how to do it online, because I'll walk you through it. I'm going to put together some videos and stuff. The way that you do it is you take your resume, take the job description, copy it, literally, highlight it, copy the entire job description that you see online, word for word, copy the tags out of the word description, take it to the bottom of your resume file, and paste it. Paste it.
That's your objective?
Yeah, paste it. And then go through and get rid of and the and all the other words that you recognize are probably not keywords, right? And you'll end up with a block of words that is very likely to keyword match against that stuff. Once you have that block of words and take out all the punctuation, take out all that stuff, it's just a block of words, you're going to have a block of words. If it was me applying for a job online, my block of words would probably be 6 or 7 lines long. I promise you, it really would. I could make it white font if I wanted to, so unless somebody wants to see it when it comes up. Well, when it converts to text, it would show in black, right? But no one's going to look down there anyway. No one's going to look. I promise you, I don't ever look down all the way to the bottom. My recruiters don't ever look all the way down to the bottom. And through the entire process, until you finally get to somebody who's doing an interview with you, who isn't in the recruiting department or the HR department, nobody's looking down the bottom. A few people are aware, right? They're weird. What's that?
Education or hobbies?
They might be, but even if they see it down there, it's no big deal. If you wanted to, in fact, if you're really mean, I might snarkily put in a thing that says, hey, this block of keywords is so that I can get through your applicant tracking system. So if you'd like me to look this far, please give me a call.
Right.
Be human, by the way. Please be human. Why not put it at the top? Just because they'd be weird at the top.
So if you're filling out an application online and you're putting your jobs in there one at a time,
Wow.
do you stick that keyword block at the bottom of the very first job so it picks
Yeah.
up? Or
Wow,
where do
so
you
my
go
first
there?
flip answer is I would never do that. But, you know, the realistic answer would be it's a little bit harder to do when you're doing that. Probably it's a little bit harder to do, but what I would do, I might not take that block, but what I would do is, I also took that block, and what I would do is I'd go back, and I would go in every single place in my resume, or every single place that I'm pasting that stuff into that online application, I would use their words, right? And oh, by the way, that part of your job description, just like this gentleman had, which says work experience, don't waste black pixels on white screen by saying work experience, right? You're just wasting your space. What that probably ought to say up there is QA test. In fact, the job was called application QA test. It probably ought to say application QA test specialist. That's probably what it ought to say right there. I'm an application QA test specialist responsible for QA testing according, put it in there, right? Take that list of keywords and substitute it in there as much as you possibly can. If it's not a job that you really like and you're not going to spend much time on it, at least take it, put the net title up there, take a few things and keyword check it, and then take that block of keywords and put it down in the raw line. I promise you, you'll pick up a couple of stars. Right? It's ridiculous, isn't it? Right? Is this stuff ridiculous? Yeah, it is. Right? Sorry, I'm going to move today. I'm so frustrated with how hiring works in companies. It's getting worse, it's getting worse, and it's getting worse. And as an HR recruiter, recruiters are not, you're not an HR, I'm a recruiter. But you're in it, yeah, right? Yeah, some of you. So Taylor's thinking and the stuff about controlling systems and thinking that these things work. By the way, DISC assessments, Myers-Briggs, all those kinds of things are non-predictive of performance. Please don't use them. Please don't use them. It's really not cool to do to people.
We had a recruiter in here from a company, or consulted with a company about a month ago, and she said their applicant tracking system was such a mess that they didn't even use their resumes in their application.
That's all the time.
Everybody who applied online.
All the time. In fact, more often than not, what's really happening when you're applying online is it's getting flooded into a system that's never being used. I'm working with a client right now that they haven't used it, they haven't touched it, the jobs are out there, but nobody's looking at it. The person who's supposed to look at it quit a month ago, nobody's got the password, right? So now we're working with you know, I'm telling you, it's crazy, right? It's crazy. So I could get this, so what do you do now? I already answered that question was, for this problem, if you're gonna apply for a job online, hack your resume, go get the keywords, take the job description, paste it at the bottom, and know that you'll do yourself a big favor, and you can have a couple of little things in there. The most of them won't look weird, put that block at the bottom to pick up a couple more stars. And I really would, like I said, I might be tempted to say, hey, you got this work on me because I put this block of words in so that I would turn, so I come out higher in your stupid system. Back on that soapbox for just a second, it's funny, I think the resumes are hard to write, I think the job descriptions are hard to write, I think job descriptions are a poorer reflection of the jobs than your resume is of you. And the way a lot of job descriptions come to exist is that the IT manager finally got permission to make a hire, and they need to make a hire, and somebody says, well, you need to work on the job description, and they say, well, which one did we use last time? And HR says, we used this one. They say, oh, that's good enough, just use that. And it talks about a Linux administrator when they're really looking for a Microsoft administrator. I'm telling you, that's how it goes down. Take job descriptions with a massive grain of salt. Very rarely do they really reflect the job. Here's the thing I want to tell you. This is the most important thing I have to tell you. People hire people. This applicant tracking system is in your way. Your resume is in your way. I am in your way. Mo, who works for me, she's awesome. She's in your way. Andy, who works for me, is awesome. he's in your way. Gina is in your way. Right? Mindy is in your way. They're all in your way. Because all the hiring happens in the front of the line. Where's the front of the line? Talking to the hiring manager. Actually, having a conversation with the hiring manager. Right? Isn't that interesting? People hire people. Hiring managers hire people. How many of you think, how many of you have been a hiring manager before? How many of you got awesome service from your recruiting team? You were able to hire the right people all the time. You were never frustrated with how long it took or anything else. How many of you had that kind of great service? Awesome. One time, right? Cool. Did we ever work together?
No, it was actually at a permit. Andrew came and talked to us
Okay. Sometimes we're good, sometimes we're not. My team, and the reason why sometimes we're good and sometimes we're not is that because we're a third party, our demand goes like this, right? So when our demand is like that, and we wonder where our next paycheck comes in, I'm telling you, we're awesome, right? When our demand goes like this, when we get spread too thin, we're not as awesome, right? I mean, that's the way that it works. People hire people. Skip to the front of the line, right? So I want to show you something, right? And by the way, if I saw a job online that and you know, I also suggest you flip it the other way. It's not really a job. I almost said it, and we're all taught to say this, which is, if you see a job you're interested in, you know what, it's not about that. It's, if you see a job that represents the kind of problem that you can solve, and you probably see a team of people who you can help, that's really what it's all about. Go find some people that you can help. Your interest in the job kind of doesn't matter, right? Is peel it back and really help those kinds of people. And if you can, then what you need to do is, when you see that job at Progressive Insurance, for what was that I saw last night? It's a director of sales, basically. All you got to do is go to LinkedIn. If you go to LinkedIn and you look at recruiters in Austin, Texas, there's 3 of them. There's Cassie, there's, forgive me, I forget the other 3 names. And I did it last night. I called into Progressive's number here in town and just asked Google for it. And there's a what do you call it, dial by name kind of extension kind of thing. I got to her voicemail last night. Right? Anybody in here in sales? Anybody in sales, marketing kind of stuff? Will you do me a favor? All right, cool. So here's what I want you to do. We're going to pretend like, have we got time? Are we okay?
As long as y'all are good, we're good.
Are we okay? Yeah. All right, I don't know what time it is.
11:27.
Oh, cool. I got a couple minutes, but if y'all say I'm fine, then we're fine. So here's the deal. Let's pretend like you saw a job that was posted out there somewhere, and you saw that Austin HR was related to it. In fact, you could find a director of sales job for Falcon Structures out there, and you could apply for it online. You'd be one of 175 or so that are in that line right now. And we're actively reaching out to people. So by the way, as recruiters, most of our hires are because I go find people. And the people who apply online, we don't post our jobs, but most of the people who apply online are my backup, just in case. Because what I know is I go through that pile, which lots of people are totally not qualified, so it's going to take me a long time. So mostly I reach out to people, so we probably haven't really looked at the people who apply online, unfortunately. I hate that, and that's the reason why I don't post jobs very much.